This podcast is for educational purposes only, does not constitute legal advice, and does not create an attorney-client relationship. If you need legal assistance about a legal problem, contact an attorney.
Welcome to Know Your Regulator, the podcast that inspires you to engage. I'm Cimone Murphree, your host.
And I'm MJ Hooper, in case you don't recognize me. Today, we are diving into a crucial topic. How are laws and regulations made in Texas? And most importantly, how does this affect you and how can you get involved?
So let's start with the basics. Unlike Congress, which meets every year, the Texas Legislature meets every 2 years on odd-numbered years. So the session starts in January and runs for only 140 days. This means lawmakers have a limited window to introduce, debate, and pass laws that impact millions of Texans.
Now we're going to talk about how does a bill become law in Texas. Of course, we're dealing with the government, so it's a multi-step and complex process. But we hope to be able to break it down for you to make it easier to understand.
Yes. So step one, pre-filing. Legislators can start filing bills as early as November before the session even begins. This allows lawmakers to introduce proposed laws before the session officially starts, and it's critical because it helps lawmakers build support and gain public awareness early on.
So the next step we have is first reading and committee assignment. This is where the bill gets introduced into either the House or the Senate. Then it's assigned to a committee that will specialize in that specific topic of the bill, such as healthcare, education, business regulation, and so forth. This step is very important because committees act as the gatekeepers, deciding which bill will move forward and which don't.
So that would be something, MJ, like an example of that may be like athletics or something that's a very specific topic or specific industry, and that would need more of an expert on that topic to be able to make that sound decision, correct?
Correct, and good point. Thank you for clarifying.
I feel like sometimes that can be really confusing. It's like, what are the qualifications or why does that happen? It's a crucial step. You want people who are informed about the industry and informed about this topic to be making those decisions. So then in the committee process, lawmakers, stakeholders, and the public will all weigh in. The committee holds hearings, gathering expert testimony, and they may even amend the bill. This step is also critical because most bills die in committee and they never make it further. In fact, the majority of proposed bills never reach a final vote. So making your voice heard at this stage is very, very crucial.
Agreed. And if it survives, which that sounds so funny, but we are dealing with bills here, the bill can move to the full chamber for debate and voting. Lawmakers here will discuss the bill's pros and cons and any amendments they feel are needed and or warranted. If it passes, it heads over to another chamber for the same process. Each chamber can propose changes, which is why bills often look very different from their origination.
Yes. And sometimes if both chambers pass different versions, a conference committee steps in to reconcile the differences. This small group of lawmakers ensures that both the House and the Senate agree on the final wording. And if they can't reach an agreement, the bill may stall and never become a law. And this is where sometimes you will see that the House and the Senate have both created a bill that looks almost exactly the same. But there are some different nuances between them. And this is where that conference committee would step in to reconcile those differences.
So now the bill has finally landed on the governor's desk. And this is where the governor starts his work, his or her work. At this time, the governor has a choice to sign it into law. They could veto it, or they could allow it to come into law without signing. If the governor decides to veto this, the lawmakers do have the option to override that veto. However, they have to have a 2/3 vote majority in both chambers to get that accomplished. And what I've been told, that's very rare for that to happen. So if the governor decides to go ahead and move forward, most laws take effect on September 1st, unless the bill has a specific date stated.
So why should you care about this process? Because many of the laws that affect your profession, your license, your livelihood start as bills right here in the Texas legislation.
That's right. Licensing requirements, professional standards, disciplinary procedures, even fees associated with your license are all shaped by the legislative process. If you're not paying attention, major changes could be happening without you even knowing.
And that is why we've created Know Your Regulator. For example, let's say a bill is introduced that increases continuing education requirements for your profession. If that bill passes and you didn't even know it existed, you might be caught off guard by the new rules. Staying informed helps you prepare for these changes and advocate for your interests.
Very true about those CEs. The only way you're going to catch that is when it's time for renewal, and then you don't have enough CEs, and then you're going to have to get audited and submit late ones. So pay attention, people. That can be helpful.
Absolutely. That is a really, really big one. You want to make sure that you are engaging with your regulatory agency, that you are making your voice heard where you can. So let's talk about action. How can you, as a professional license holder, get involved? Here are some easy steps to make your voice heard.
So the first one that we wanted to discuss, which is what we've already been kind of talking about, is tracking the bills that affect you in your industry. So you can log on to Texas Legislature online, search the current legislative session in session that is relevant for your industry. This website will allow you to look up bills, actually track their progress, and even receive alerts when changes have happened. Keep in mind, people, knowledge is power, and staying informed is the best first step in being an active participant.
Absolutely. And that legislative tracker is so powerful. Like you said, you can get alerts when changes have happened, and you'll want to know when those changes have happened. So that's a really good one. Second, it's one that's very important. You've probably heard before. Find and contact your legislators. You can use Who Represents Me to look up your state representative and senator. They need to hear from constituents like you. A quick email or a phone call explaining your position on a bill can make a huge impact. Legislators often listen to their constituents, especially when they receive a large number of calls or emails on a particular issue. So make sure that you are getting engaged and making your voice heard.
Very important piece. Our next one that we wanted to cover is attending and/or watching committee hearings. Many of these hearings are open and available to the public, where you can even testify on bills that impact your profession. Some hearings are live streamed, so you could participate without even leaving your own home and/or office. Your testimony can provide lawmakers with real-world perspectives that influence their decisions.
That is right. That's absolutely true. Another good one that you can do is to join a professional organization. Many industry groups track legislation. They lobby on your behalf. They send out alerts when important bills and issues arise. So being part of these groups ensures you stay informed. You have a collective voice in this process. These organizations often have good relationships with lawmakers, and they can provide guidance on how to advocate effectively.
And so the last one, which we kind of have been mentioning throughout this podcast today, is submit your comments. Again, speak what's bothering you, what you'd like proposed, what you'd like to be changed. Sometimes these agencies ask for public input before implementing new regulations. If you don't speak up, someone else's opinion may shape the policies that govern your profession, and it might be one that you didn't like. Even in a short comment explaining how a rule affects you can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah. The bottom line is laws aren't made just for you. They can be shaped by you.
I like
Taking
that.
steps to stay engaged can make a big difference in the industry. And understanding this legislative process gives you the power to protect your profession and advocate for yourself and your industry. Laws and regulations aren't something that just happen in the background. They are shaped by the voices of engaged professionals like yourself.
By staying informed and involved, you can help shape the rules that govern your work and or profession. Even small changes or actions, like sending a quick email, attending a hearing, or even joining an industry group. These can be big changes.
Absolutely. And be sure to subscribe for more insights on professional regulation and this Texas 2025 legislative session. Check out the links in our description for the resources that we discussed today. And until next time, stay inspired and keep engaging with your regulatory agency.
Know Your Regulator, the podcast that inspires you to engage.